Hello. So I'm going to go over how to make some creature sounds. This might be quite a long video, so I might need to split it up into a few different parts. But I'm just going to go over the basics to start with. For this, I'm going to be using some kind of expensive plugins and also SoundMiner. But I'm sure there are other ways you can do this without these kind of plugins. So whenever there's like an option to use a free plugin, I'll probably just use that instead, just to show you. To make the sounds, I'm just going to use Boom Library. It's probably just going to be just the creature stuff. So the Aquatic Predators one, the Alien Life one, they'll probably be fine for this. So it's difficult. Where do you start with the creatures? So what I usually do is I think of it in like two different ways. So you need to have like animal sounds, and then you need to have sweetener sounds on top of that. So what I mean by that, you'll find it like in this sort of stuff here in this library. So you've got like this, like all these animal sounds, camels and all that stuff. And then you've got this. What I see a lot of people do when they make creature sounds is they'll use like a camel or something like that. They'll drag it in, and then to make it sound bigger, they'll pitch it down. But you kind of lose all the detail there. If you look at it there's no high end, so it never really seems to work that well, I find. It's just something I kind of noticed that a lot of people do. I think you always need that kind of, well, it depends on the creature, I guess, but I think you always need to have some sort of like screechy high-end thing. And it's hard because it is absolutely horrific to listen to, but it does add like, it's kind of like a realism thing to it, I find. So for that, we're probably going to use something like all this, which by itself sounds horrible. A lot of scrapey sounds, a lot of these pinecone things work well. I struggled for ages to find out how you could even, like, how would that be useful for a creature. So it was a lot of like trial and error to actually get this like sounding pretty good. But I'm just going to show you a few different things to start with. So one thing you could do, we could do morph. That's always quite interesting. Sometimes it sounds good, sometimes it sounds really awful. Generally it's quite awful. But let's just drag some things in here, and I'll just show you what I would do. Oh, I'm not expecting this to actually sound good. I just want to show you. I'll pause the video and I'll set it all up, then I'll explain how I've done it. Right, I'm back. So this is the first one. So this is morph. I actually don't really use this one very much. I don't even have a license for it, so this is just the demo mode. Normally I use another thing, which I'll show you in just a second. But basically, all you need to do here is you've got morph, which is this thing here. And then you've got input A, then input B. So all you need to do is make sure that input A is 1 and 2, and input B is the sidechain 1 and 2. You'll be able to tell that it's working because if it's on A, it'll just play this one signal here. So let me bypass the vocoder. And then if we change it to B, you'll get the other one. So it's just 100% A, then 100% B. Then we can do some stuff like this. So you're going to blend them together. Then if you wanted, you could do some parameter modulation. So we'll take input 1 and 2, and we'll modulate the ratio based on the volume. Let's set these really fast. So we'll try some other source. This is one of those things where you just need to keep swapping stuff out. Like if it doesn't work the first time, don't like try and keep going with it. Just delete it and pick another few files. So we'll take this. I think it works best if they're kind of like a similar sound. So we'll use these, see how this works. Yeah, so that, I mean, that's quite interesting. And then maybe we'll change the parameter modulation here. And change this to 3 and 4. So that's kind of cool, but again, we're kind of missing, I don't know, it's not the kind of frequency range we want. I'm looking for something about like 2K-ish. But we don't need to worry about that just now, because we're just making some source and we're just playing with some ideas. What I'm going to do is disable this. I'm going to go to this one. Seems to be a good preset. Or not. Then if you want it to be a bit more kind of synthy sounding, you can use something like the vocoder. Let's swap these out. I won't spend too long on this because I normally don't get good results. You seem to get that noisy thing going on, which I'm not very keen on. I guess it would work for some stuff. If you're just making source, it's fine. But yeah, that's it's Melda Morph. So then we've got the other one here. I'll pause the video and like set it up. So this is the other one, Transmutator. I think it's kind of cheap. So it's maybe worth getting the demo for it at least. And you've got all these different modes. So let's use some actual creature source for this. So let's use this and this. See, if it's too different, it kind of doesn't work. That sounds kind of cool. I guess that could work. So that's Transmutator. Then there's like the kind of one that I would normally use, and it is the most expensive. It is Morph 3 Pro. You got these other things here, like all these. I don't know. I just use this one. Make sure the sidechain's set up, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 going to the right place. And then something you can do is morph this. So this is basically how it works. Very quiet. Let's get some nice sounds. So this one and this one. And you've got all these different modes here that you can use. It's kind of quiet though, so maybe put a limiter after it. So we will use elevate and just bump it up a little bit. It's quite CPU intensive, this one. That's the only thing you've kind of got to be aware of. So if you were going to use something like Morph, then use Unveil, it's not great. It tends to, yeah, it does this like stuttery thing, which is quite annoying. So if you modulate this, it actually works quite well. You just need to kind of change these settings quite a lot. I've heard some cool stuff people have made with this, and I just never seem to have that much luck with it, to be honest. But it is worth trying and just messing about with and making some source with it. But one of the things I do probably the most is I use this thing here. So this is the preset here. Basically, it's an audio follower thing that I made like ages ago. It takes the input from 3 and 4, and it does this audio follower thing, and you need to set this to external, and that just adjusts the gain based on the gain from the audio follower and the attack and the release. So what that's good for is if you've got something clicky on one track, and then you've got like something else on another. So let's just try some stuff. So this is a dolphin. I'll show you like by themselves. So you get this thing. And then you get this thing. Jesus Christ. So then together you get this. Which is really useful. Then we've got this transient shaper thing as well. Which, I don't know if I would use this, I might just use transgressor. Then we've got drive, which is disabled. Bump up the attack and the release, maybe the gain. If you go too high, it kind of starts to sound a little bit weird if you go too high on the release. And then we can maybe put the vocoder after that. So you get that kind of stuff. I know it's not sounding too great at the minute, but it's going to get there. You need to just go with the process. And it's a long process. So then we've got this. Or what if we swap these about? So I'll put this. Then there's a ring mode thing. I don't know why I added this, but I just thought it'd be fun. Doesn't seem to do that much. But that's pretty cool. Like, that's very usable. But if you don't want to do any of that stuff, there is an alternative here. And this is something I use quite a lot as well. So what I'll do is I'll bring these down to here. And then it's this thing here. So it's the peak follower thing. So what we can do is generate this. You see you got all the little... It seems a little bit off actually. Interesting. Then shift, drag that down to here. Well, let me line this up a little bit better. And then we can delete this, and then you get this. I may want something a little bit less clicky. So it's the peak follower thing. I like to have it the same length as this. So generate that, shift, drag that down, then you get this. So that's pretty useful. So those are the kind of ways you can start processing stuff and coming up with some source. But the way I normally do it is I will go to SoundMiner and I'll just basically make a library, because what you want to do, you don't want to use like a million sounds for the creature that you're designing. You want to have like a library of assets that you're going to use that are specific to that creature. That way it always sounds like cohesive. Otherwise it'll all just sound a bit weird and a bit disconnected. So I've got a creature chain here. I'm going to just make one as I go just to show you the kind of thought process behind it. And then I'm going to load this up. I'm probably going to use expensive plugins. It is what it is. I'd rather show you the actual way that I do it than like some weird way with a bunch of free plugins. It just doesn't sound that good. So let's find a thing to start with. I think pigs are always quite good, so let's find like a pig sound. Everything I'm doing here, it can be done in Reaper. I just like this workflow. Basically what you do is you process the sounds in here, then you spot them into the session that you're working in. Then I normally just delete them, and then like I'll go here, project directory, because they all end up there anyway. Then I'll put them in their own folder. It'd be like here, and then name them like something sensible. So you'll notice some of these sounds, if you didn't know this, some of them say 100k, and they're recorded with a Sankin, so they can actually pitch down much better than the other stuff. The only thing is, I think the 100k mic sounds a little bit harsh, so even though the frequency range is higher, I still sometimes prefer the other recordings. And I'll kind of show you what I mean by this. I'll just load up Elevate. Turn this up a little bit. So if you look at this little bit here, when I pitch it down, it's already got a bassy sound, so maybe like something a bit higher pitch. So see, that's got loads of high end, so if I pitch this down, I'll pitch it down in semitones just so you can understand it a little bit better. So that's the same kind of thing. But you can see there's a bit more high-end detail in the 100k mic, so that's why people tend to use them. Kind of up to you what you want to do, really. Sometimes I'll do both, just why not? See, it does have a bit more high-end, but it is mono, which I don't mind because creature sounds are normally mono anyway. So let's make a little chain, shall we? But I need to find a pig first. Pitch it down a touch. Okay, so how do we start this? I'm just going to throw some stuff in and just see what I like. So there's a few things we want to do. We want it to be louder, we want it to sound a little bit bigger, we want the transients to stick out a bit more, and then I want to compress it a little bit. The one thing I don't want to do really, and I see this quite a lot from some YouTube videos and stuff like that, people add distortion to make it feel like big, but it just sounds distorted. So don't do that. So I'll add this distortion just now. I'll bring the input, I'll bump up the input, bring down the output. Cool, that's fine. Then I'm going to use this transmod thing. Oh, the other thing I want to do is take the noise out of it. So I'm going to show you a few ways we can do that. See, the output is already clipping here. We want to avoid that, especially this early in the chain. Otherwise it'll just sound a bit rubbish. And it will sound a bit quiet, but that's fine. I might actually bring this down a touch. So what would I use next? I would probably just go right to some denoise. Can we use low ender here? Let's use this. If you've got R-bass, that'll work as well. Once this is made, I'll probably just delete it and show you the actual creature thing that I made, because I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. So then probably this, or yeah, we'll use this. And then I might add two plugins that are kind of the same, then just swap them out and just see what one I like better. But normally I make presets for stuff, and that's a good way to start. So these two are kind of the same. Let's do this. Sounds alright. Unveil. So there's a few ways you can denoise it. You can use the RX denoise. You can use the voice denoise, I think sounds better. You've got the... Wait, is it? Yeah, if you've got voice denoise, then you've got the spectral denoise. I always go to this one. I think it sounds a bit nicer. We're not looking for anything like crazy at the minute. Then I'll probably add a gate. I want it to be quite a sharp kind of thing. So what am I looking for here? Is this the fab filter one? No, it's the waves one. I don't even have that. The fab filter one. Go. Right, so I'm gonna use a little bit of this, but I might take it off later. I just want to see how this sounds. Yeah, it's a bit much. In the mix now. But that sounds okay. Like this bit sounds good. So what if we use something like Unveil to kind of bring that out a little bit more? It takes a lot kind of out of the sound. So what else could we use? Maybe Saturn or something. Nothing here. Then Uber loud. There is like a bit of noise to it though. Want to de-reverb this. I don't mind going... Yeah, I don't mind going too far with the de-reverb and the de-noise because there's going to be other elements on top of it which kind of add more noise and make it sound a bit more natural, like breathing and stuff like that. So I don't mind. This will sound a little bit too much, but just trust the process. So I'm just having a look and see what I've got. What I'm going to use is multi-pass. And then there's just this OTT preset. I think OTT adds a bunch of noise. I think it's a little bit much. But what we'll do is we'll move the de-reverb down here. Then let's just have a listen to some other stuff. I'll pitch it down a little bit more. That sounds kind of cool. So I'll get rid of this because I don't need it. And then I'm going to use this thing. So I just made a preset for this ages ago. So this is a good starting point. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit extreme. I quite like it. I think it sounds a bit different. And then elevate. So having CPU issues now, I think it's probably the unveil. But I would rather, I'd like to keep that. It's probably having OBS running at the same time. I think that's probably the issue. So what I'm going to do instead of getting rid of this, because I like this, I'm going to just blend in some of the dry signal. Okay, so that sounds pretty decent. And pitch it down. So just a quick like before and after. And then with. We can probably dial back the distortion a touch. I think there's something else, adding bass. Could EQ it, I guess. Kind of sounds good to me. I'm actually going to save that because I quite like it. 80. Feature V2. So there's going to be some clicking in the background just because of all the plugins. I'm not too worried about it because when you export it to Reaper, you don't get the pops and stuff. So yeah, you get all this sort of stuff. That's too much. That is definitely too much bass. So I'm just going to bring the mix down. Okay. Save that again. So now this is like the chain's finished, I would say. So now all I would do is go through and then normally there's this little mark thing here, so you can just tick and go through these and just tick them all. Then at the end, I think you can just hit this. Yeah, you can see I've done it already for a few of the other ones. And I will basically just highlight all of these and then hit spot to DAW. Of course, if you're doing this all in Reaper, just export it. Job done. This is just a more awkward way of doing it. Cool. So this is like, I'll stop the video there. This can be like part one because this will last ages. So this is the basic design, the basic source creation. So what you want to do is, just to quickly go over it all, make a chain. Make a chain in Reaper if you want, that's totally fine. What we want is a little tiny bit of saturation, Oxford's inflator or something. Then we want transient shape because we want it to have like a punch at the start, which I'll go over a bit more in depth of in probably the next video. Then we want a little bit of bass, but not too much because when you start stacking this stuff up, it'll start sounding a total mess. Then we want to denoise it. And then to clean it up further, we want to add the gate. Then the black box thing, kind of take it or leave it. I don't think it's doing much. Unveil. You can live without this. It doesn't really matter that much. You could just go a little bit more extreme with the de-reverb. You could even add 2 of them if you wanted. But I just quite like Unveil. Then Saturn 2 probably isn't doing much. I just quite like it. And then Uber Loud. This could just be a multiband limiter or something. Could even be just literally OTT, which is free. Then we've got multipass. This literally is OTT. So you could just replace both of these with one OTT, then the denoise. Then this is just basically a compressor. So I just want the important thing here is the attack. Because you want a slow attack, because it lets that initial transient through, then it kind of compresses it a bit. And I think that sounds quite nice, especially for creatures. And then maybe just a limiter at the end, just in case stuff's going crazy. We want to kind of, you know, make sure it doesn't clip. So yeah, then what you're going to want to do is go through all these libraries here, all the creature sounds that you've got and things that could be creatures, or record your own. I do that. I've done that in the past and it works quite well. So process some creature sounds and then some other stuff like this. You know, all these kind of things. They've got a nice tonal sort of element to them. One thing I started doing quite recently is instead of pitching everything down and then exporting it, I'll just pitch this up. And then just kind of see what you get. You might need to edit the effects chain if you're going to do this because it tends to sound a little bit weird. So maybe remove the unveil and the de-reverb. Like this thing here already sounds like a creature. Maybe just when it's pitched up. Oh, that was cool. Alright, so yeah, pitch some stuff up, export it. Just kind of play about with it and see what kind of pitch sounds the best, really. Because we want some stuff that's going to be quite bassy, then some stuff that's going to be quite high pitched and quite like horrible to listen to. Then we're going to try. Oh, one other thing we could do here, if you've got it. This is pretty expensive, but it is quite handy. There are other ways you could do this. You could use like an EQ and like automate it so it pulls down the frequency that's like poking through a little bit too much. But you can use soothe and that'll get rid of some of the screechiness. If we set this to delta, you can hear what it's getting rid of. So we could just do this. Obviously that's too extreme, but you get the idea. We can kind of selectively pull it back as much as we want. So yeah, that's something else to look into. But I'll stop the video here, and then in the next one, I'm going to show you how all this comes together and actually makes, hopefully, a good creature sound. Right, cheers, bye.